Hi, everybody. Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of July 14th through 20th. And the main thing we've got going on this week, as some of you probably are aware of, is Mercury is going retrograde for the second time this year, the second of three times that it will go retrograde. As always, goes three times every year, and the second time again in a fire sign, and this time completely in a fire sign. It will stay in Leo the whole time. So that's the main thing I'm going to be talking about. A couple other things. Mercury will be sextiling Venus just as it's doing that, and then on the weekend the sun squaring Chiron. So not a real lot to talk about, but definitely can get into this stuff pretty deeply. First off, a little bit of business. The Astrological Winds channel is a free video blog that I do as a YouTube channel now for 6, 7 years. It's been. And if you have a YouTube account and you like what you see, I'd really like you to become a follower. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so that you know when the blog is posted, which of course is usually every Sunday, Monday. Also, it's still available on podcasts, which it was long before it was a video blog, and there's no change in the audio feed. You hear the exact same blog. You just don't get the video, but that frees you up to do other stuff while you're listening to the blogs. I've always liked that audio only option, like you're out in the garden or something, and you can be, listening to the blog or something. And then also, if you have a Instagram page or account, you can also become a follower of Astrological Winds channel, which has one also. And that's where one place where in the newsreel you'll get the link every week to the YouTube channel to get you to the blog. Sometimes I put some extra stuff up there too. And remember, the other place you can always get the blog, this blog or any of the blogs from the past few months, and the monthly blog and the annual blog is on my website. That's www.astrologicalwinds.com, not Winds Channel, Winds there. And that also has the menu for all my professional services. I've been doing professional readings for astrology for over 20 years after 7 years of training and schooling for that. And many, many clients over the years would love to do your chart, or someone that that's looking for that service, or if you need your annual reading done, which I recommend everyone get around their birthday. And if you do that around your birthday, you get a 10% discount on that. If you need to work in installments on the payment, you can put half down. Just let me know. We can work with that. All kinds of other charts I do too. Relocation, if you're looking for astrocartography services, relationship charts, when to start a business, get married, election charts, all kinds of different stuff. Also have stuff for groups like workshops, lectures, things like that. So check the website for all that. Also, always looking for beginning students, or if you're needing some tutoring, I can do that too. So like I said, all on the website. I'll get a little, give a little bit more info at the end of this. Get into this first. So the big thing is on Thursday when Mercury goes retrograde in Leo, that it will be at about 16 degrees of Leo at that point. Okay. And Mercury, as usual, stays retrograde 20, 21 days. So it'll be till August 11th is what our Mercury retrograde period will actually be. It'll be the 17th of July through August 11th. So we're already in shadow, that means, right? And we'll be in the shadow of it after that for 2 or 3 weeks also. So most of our summer in the Northern Hemisphere, that is, will be Mercury retrograde in Leo. And then afterwards, still Mercury in the shadow of the retrograde in Leo. And it will not go into Virgo until September 3rd. So we've got a long period of Mercury in Leo. And once again, the big point here is it is a fire sign, and so what, when the Mercury retro, if you don't know what the Mercury retrograde stuff usually means, it usually means communication breakdowns all over the place, bad information, right? Travel delays, projects going off the rails, especially not a time to start anything new. We really want to stay focused on what's going on right now. And remember, it's a part of a natural cycle for humans. This is like the intellect, Mercury, the mind, and we input an awful lot into that mind all the time, right? We're such intellectually driven creatures at this point in our evolution. And so there's so much coming in. So every 3 months, this is like a little checkpoint for our minds. Every 3 months, Mercury goes retrograde and it says, this 3 months before this, you took in a lot of information, right? Now it's time to really just take a step back, slow down, review, reprocess a lot of that stuff. Okay. And if you don't, it's going to probably go off rails. And that's, part of the big thing with Mercury retrograde. So, like, when you think about it in fire sign, right? And I just see, we see how the way the world is, we know the world is in a very stressful place these days. It's been for a long time, and it seems like it's really built up this year in particular to a huge point of like division and strife and violence and war and all kinds of like crazy stuff going on in the world. And when you think about the fire sign, that's very fiery, right? Very at times what happens when fire energy is negative is it comes out as anger, right? It comes out as like temper tantrums, overreactions, being pompous, being arrogant, being aggressive with our energy, right? And so you combine that with just the heat of the summer and all the dissension that's going on in the world right now. And I think this is going to be a particularly difficult Mercury retrograde in summer for the world. I think there's going to be a lot of strife in the world. There's going to be a lot of division. There's going to be a lot of social unrest. We people are feeling very angry on a personal level, and they're feeling really triggered, and they get very egotistical responses when that happens. And that's going to be why there's so many communication breakdowns during this Mercury retrograde, because people are just not hearing one another. Everybody wants to be the loudest in the room. Everybody wants to be the last one talking. No one is listening. And so we're just so wrapped up in our subjective thoughts and ideas, and are very ego driven about our viewpoint, that we're basically aggressively arrogant right now, and we're trying to push that. And when everybody is trying to do that at the same time, like I said, it's a time when no one's listening then. And therefore everyone wants to be the winner, basically. Everyone wants to be that last guy who's got the last word in, just can't drop it, right? That's going to be the energy of this Mercury retrograde in Leo. And that's why communications are going to really break down more likely than not. On a, like I said, on a societal level, people are feeling this inner turmoil inside, right? They're feeling that, and the warm weather brings people out, right? It brings people outside. They get active. Fire energy activates people. Warm weather activates people, and so they go outside, and basically this inner turmoil is going to be expressed in that outer environment. And I really think, like I said, we're going to probably see a lot of social unrest. The heat of the inner anger is going to combine with the heat on the outside. And there's going to be a lot of arguing. There's going to be a lot of power struggles. There's going to be a lot of threats. There's going to be threats from people who are in power. Remember, Leo represents leadership, right? So, the leaders under this are just going to exacerbate the situation. We have a bunch of world leaders right now who actually do that every day, right? And I'm not just talking about the USA here, I'm talking about the world. We've got leaders right now who are so arrogant and egotistical that every day all they do is go out and exasperate situations that are already like in a really bad place. It's like throwing lighter fluid on a fire is basically what's going on with a lot of this energy. So, everybody feels they're right, when Mercury's in Leo. They're attached to their opinions, they feel like they're right, and they're going to push that stuff, and they're going to keep pushing that stuff, and they're not going to back down. They're too wrapped up in it. And so that's why we're going to have all kinds of communication issues. And that's probably going to cause a lot of the delays and stuff to the things that we're trying to do. Anything that we're trying to achieve during Mercury retrograde, usually there's a slowdown, right? And with Mercury and Leo too, a lot of that slowdown in things that we're trying to do, we're going to find out that it's based on we didn't plan well enough or organize well enough in the last 3 months, or even some of the actions we took were off. And so now all of a sudden those plans are going to be what? Mercury retrograde, have to be reviewed, have to be reworked, have to be redone. And that's the right thing to do, incidentally. You want to work with the Mercury retrograde energy so that it doesn't affect you too much. Think about review, redo, all that. That's the energy. That's how you work with it. That's how you work with that energy. And discipline yourself, humble yourself a little bit, Leo energy. That's a difficult thing, but that's what needs to be done. And it's really difficult with Mercury and Leo to let go of the know it all attitude. We all know it all. Well, guess what? Your know it all is what's causing you blockages. Um, the other thing too with Mercury and Leo is like there's an obsessiveness to like trying to resolve what we see as a problem, right? And once again, that is what will make us get strong armed about stuff. And all of a sudden, what do we do when we push out? We meet resistance from the outside world. We meet resistance from other people. Like, people are like, you're just full of propaganda right now. And I'm going to resist that, with my own propaganda, So it's a very, very, touchy energy. Um, so yeah, like I said, and then the other thing is, even when you're listening to leadership with Mercury, because of this exaggeration that goes on, you should double check anything that, is being presented to you with information as a fact. Because once again, Mercury rules information. If you take someone's opinion as a fact and it messes you up, well, that's your own fault for not checking. It doesn't take more than a couple minutes to check on whether something or someone has said it. And when someone's just talking an opinion, that's not a fact, right? It's just their opinion, right? So it may not necessarily be a fact. So don't allow yourself to be messed up by like accepting things without double checking them, or you can be easily misled. Now, just on a bigger level too, when you think about Mercury in Leo, right? The other thing that, on a bigger level is you just think hot, dry winds and fires. So that could be part of the problem that starts blocking certain ways of traveling, certain ways of like trying to get things done. We may have more fires and hot, dry weather this summer than normal. Okay, um, and then and just and that's the type of thing too. Like when you think about like once again, what's causing these problems. Once again, if leaders are pushing stuff and all of a sudden we're in conflict, that's another thing that can cause all kinds of blockages to travel, communication, trying to get things done. It's a very, very edgy energy, this energy. It's so difficult to separate our thoughts and opinions from our ego with this energy. And so we overreact and it backfires constantly on us. And then, and so like that's really what we need to learn. I mean, even trying to humor people right now can be taken the wrong way and just create more like backfire energy. It's really just a very restless energy. And to top that off, I don't have it on the board, but on Thursday too, Mars is actually sesquiquadrate Pluto, which is a minor aspect, but it's a very frustrating aspect between two planets that are angry and violent a lot. The two like malefic planets in a aspect that's very frustrating, where they're once again trying to push power trip what they believe in, the creative change that they want to bring in, and there's just this great backlash of resistance to that. So you can see how this just literally just feeds right into the Mercury retrograde Leo stuff. And when people with Mars, Pluto, people get, when they don't get their way, they can act very underhandedly. They can act very ruthlessly. They can act very violently. So, like any places in the world that are already in conflict, this is just not a good signature for the next few weeks, where it's just going to probably escalate the violence, basically. And the pushing of trying to get this stuff in is just creating confrontation and challenges over and over and over again. And people are not learning. And so they're basically stuck. That's what this as a quadrate means. It's just stuck in this same place. And it's just coming back to bite them over and over and over again, which really can, really exasperate all of the energy around this. So this can be a really wild summer, you guys. There can be a lot of like violence, a lot of anger in the world, a lot of leaders facing off with one another on a personal level with the Mars and Pluto energy interjected into this. You don't want to be around violent people or places or situations if you can avoid it, because the proclivity for them to act out and for you to be a victim, or if you are the person who can't, hold your temper, you to become the aggressor, that energy is much higher during this. So, like, be careful. Be disciplined in what you're doing. Now, a nice thing going on is the very next day, Friday, Mercury is sextile Venus. So Mercury's stationary, just stationed retrograde is sextiling Venus. And this is a really good day for socializing with others, especially with loved ones, friends and family. It's a time where you really want to keep the conversation lighthearted and we want to be fun. I mean, we do express our feelings with this, but they're positive feelings mainly. We keep it light, we don't elicit defensive reactions from people. And, this is also good for all kinds of other communications too, like business communications, for instance. This can definitely open up new business opportunities with this energy, through relationships. It's also great for being creative with words. So any people, anyone, anything that you use words for, you can be very eloquent. So you need to give a speech this day, or you need to have a serious conversation with others, or any kind of art with words, poetry, writing, all that kind of stuff. It's a great day where really can get that energy out. It gives a very curious mind, and it's a very open mind. Therefore, wants to take in more information, wants to study, sees the patterns behind things too, and will go around the local area collecting information too. It's just like, oh, wherever I go. I'm like a little bee today collecting little pieces of information. And, even though it's lighthearted, because of that, actually, that good attitude, it's a great day to have serious discussions with others, to have serious discussions about serious concerns, because you're both parties are much more balanced and it's easy to find some kind of agreement. Nobody's feeling being like they're being put off or like their energy is getting drained by the other person. This is like a really balanced energy. And then Saturday is a challenging sun square Chiron. And to me, looking at astrology for many years, to me, the sun square Chiron, the whole sun Chiron cycle is a lot about like like the process of individuation as new parts of our personality are discovered within us and we start to bring them to the outside world. So when the sun is square Chiron, that's what's actually happened already. Like we discovered some new part of us inside of us, and now the challenge is to bring it into the outside world. But what that does is it can make it feel really awkward. It's like, learning how to walk up steps the first time. You might miss a step or two. You might, trip up on the edge of one. So, like, trying to find the balance when we're bringing this new part of our personality out to the light of the world and the external world for the first time cannot be the easiest thing. And it's also a time where we can easily get hurt or wounded because it's a place where we may even be like naive or innocent. So like it's new growth kind of, and it can easily get hurt because of this. So and also sun Chiron, this is a time where you want to make sure you're taking care of your health too. It's really easy to expose ourselves to some illness or some situation where we have some kind of accident and injure ourselves, but yeah, like, and then also this is also usually an imbalance in our yang or male side, that side of us is somehow not getting the attention it wants, right? And tries to pull in that attention and can get kind of like the Mercury in Leo in retrograde. It can get narcissistic about the way it's doing that. It can isolate itself and then lash out like when it feels like it's not being heard, trying to validate the new part of this personality that's coming out that all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but is actually feeling, not completely strong yet, not well developed yet, trying to figure it out. So we can easily get hurt by others' judgments. And when we overreact to that, we end up in a confrontation and it can blow right up into that Mercury and Leo stuff and start shutting communications down. This can also show us, how our ego hurts us, when we're being too willful or inflexible. That's a lesson that we can learn. Turn it around, right? Turn the situation around, see how we're being too controlling, and this will also once again show us the weakness on a societal level of our leaders, or even when we've been leaders, we'll be able to see where we've made mistakes. And once again, during this Mercury retrograde period in Leo, leadership, this is a great chance to review our ways of being leaders. What's our MO? Are there things that, we're hurting ourselves when we're leaders? So, like I said, this is a lot about the individuating process, and that there's certain times in life where a lot of tension comes from within ourselves and then that gets projected out onto the world. So we really, need to be aware of that and just, not, get so worked up over it, but instead, review and learn from that stuff. It kind of fits in really well with the Mercury retrograde. So that's what I got for this week, folks. Next week, we definitely have a new moon, and it's going to be a potent one. It's at 2 or 3 degrees Leo. And you guys know, right? You've been following the blog, all those outer planets right at the beginning of their signs, right? So they're all going to be aspected by this new moon next week. So that is going to be a really potent one. The sun will be going into Leo also next week, so the middle of the summer. So those will be a couple of the big things I'll be talking about next week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free service, and I'm really needing you right now to pass that link on to somebody else, even if you've done it before. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to give a currency donation, Venmo is at Matthew-Lawton, Lautn. Cash App $ Matthew Lawton, all one word. Lauten, two T's in the Matthew. No amount is too small. It cost me a little money to put this out. And I would, so if you can support me in either or both of those ways, especially turning someone else on to the link, that's great. And then the best way to support me, I am a professional astrologer. It's what I do. If you need professional services, check out my website, www.astrologicalwinds.com. I've done them for 20 years. I've done readings. I've done 7 years of training. It is nothing like getting a computer reading or a reading from a friend who read a book or even you trying to figure it out. This is your life. Your chart never leaves you. You need to have it read by a professional astrologer so that you can work with your energies and learn to how to control your life and energy better for you. And every year you should be getting a predictive one around your birthday. And if you do get one in your birthday month, either a birth chart reading or a natal or a predictive reading, I do give 10% off. And my prices are on the website. If you need to do installments, even you can put half up. I can work with you. All kinds of other readings too, elections, relationships, children's charts, relocation. Take a look at the site. If you've got a group and you're looking for a lecture, class, workshop, it can even be done online. I've got that kind of stuff going on too. I'm always kind of trying to get a live beginning astrology class together. Need a couple more commitments for that, but I do have beginners classes on podcast too. I do have tutoring service, and I do professional services too for people who need daily or weekly or monthly readings because of where they're at in life and or they're and need that kind of advice every day. So, if you're interested in that, please get in touch with me. Check the website, my email also right here, MATTHUE823 at gmail.com. All right. I'll see y'all next week and we'll take a look at that new moon in Leo.